You're not family anymore, Mom snapped. Don't embarrass us by staying. Emily stared at me, tears forming as Principal lifted the microphone and said, I have a letter to read. My name is Rebecca Lawson and I'm 36 years old. I'm an administrative coordinator at a medical office, and I've spent my adult life learning how to stretch one paycheck across 100 needs. I'm also Emily's mother, and raising her has been the hardest, proudest thing I've ever done. I raised my daughter alone. Overtime paid for groceries, school supplies, and little things that made Emily feel secure. I didn't have expensive vacations. I had late nights, tired mornings, and a stubborn promise that my daughter would have chances I never had. My mother never saw it that way. To her, I was always the difficult daughter, while my younger sister was the one she praised. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. I knew how much my daughter had overcome, and I refused to let anyone rewrite her story. Emily's graduation should have been peaceful. I just didn't know my mother planned to turn it into a public rejection. I kept going because Emily's future mattered more to me than their approval then. If you've sacrificed quietly for a child while relatives noticed everything except your effort, you'll understand Rebecca's pain. Have you ever been made to feel like an outsider in family? Subscribe and share in the comments with me. If this story resonates, give it a like and click hype now. On Emily's graduation morning, I woke before my alarm. The kitchen smelled like coffee and cinnamon toast. I was thinking about her. I put her card into a gift bag and checked my dress. I drove to school proud. Then I saw Mom. She looked over and said, That's what you're wearing? I'm here for Emily, I said. She sighed. You could have made an effort. I ignored it. At the reception, Mom complained about the table and my gift. That's all. It's from me, I answered. She laughed softly. Of course it is. When the photographer called everyone together, I stepped beside Emily. Mom moved between us. Rebecca, stand over there. Why? Because today is about respectable family members. The words landed harder than I expected. Emily looked at me. I could see the question in her face, but I smiled and whispered, It's okay. It wasn't. Mom turned towards several relatives and lowered her voice just enough for everyone to hear. She always makes everything difficult. Even today. Heat rose into my face. I could have answered. I looked at my daughter. Mom stepped closer. You're not family anymore, she said. You made your choices. Emily heard every word. Her eyes filled with tears. Grandma, why are you saying that? Mom shrugged. Your mother knows what she did. She looked at me. Leave before you ruin this. I took a breath. I won't argue with you here. She smiled. As the music began, I moved toward the exit. Maybe leaving was kinder. Maybe staying would give Mom another chance to hurt her. Then the principal stepped onto the stage. He tapped the microphone, waited for the room to quiet, and said, Before we continue, we have a presentation. I stopped again. The first betrayal came when the photographer called for family pictures. Mom waved me away. Not you, Rebecca. I stared at her. I'm Emily's mother. And we're taking a proper family picture. The photographer looked uncomfortable, but Mom pointed toward my sister, Claire. Claire stepped into my place, smiling beside Emily's grandparents as if she belonged there more than I did. I moved aside because I wouldn't make Emily choose. A few minutes later, I heard Mom telling an aunt, We've done so much for Emily. Without this family, she wouldn't have made it this far. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I knew exactly who had paid the bills when Emily needed tutoring. I knew who had taken extra shifts. I knew who had stayed awake beside her when she cried over college applications. Me. The second betrayal came near the refreshment table. Mom looked at my work badge sticking from my purse and said loudly, At least Rebecca has a steady little office job. Nothing impressive, but it keeps her busy. A couple of relatives laughed. I looked at her and said, I'm proud of my work. She smiled. Of course you are. That was when I understood what she wanted. She wanted me angry. She wanted one emotional reaction she could carry around for years as proof that I was the difficult daughter. So I stayed calm. The third betrayal hurt more. Mom found Emily alone near the hallway. I followed a few seconds later and heard her say, Sweetheart, you know your mother made choices that kept this family apart. Emily answered, What choices? Mom sighed. She never wanted our help. She always thought she knew better. Emily's voice shook. But Mom worked for everything. Mom went silent. Then Emily saw me. Mom, does Grandma really think you're not good enough for this family? That question broke something inside me. I knelt beside her. Listen to me. You never have to choose between people you love. I won't ask that of you. But she keeps saying you did something wrong. I know. Are you angry? Yes, I said. But I'm not going to let my anger become your burden. Emily hugged me. For years I had tried to earn my mother's approval. That day I stopped. I realized I could spend another decade explaining myself and she could still decide not to hear me. So I wiped my daughter's tears, straightened her graduation sash, and walked back into the reception with my head up. Mom watched me. I wasn't giving up. I was refusing to fight on ground she had chosen for me. She probably thought my silence meant defeat. She was wrong. There was something my family didn't know about me. For years, whenever Emily went to sleep, I opened my laptop and wrote. I wrote about scholarships, college applications, financial aid, and parenting through hard seasons. At first, nobody read them. Then people did. I built an anonymous education and parenting platform under a name my family had never heard. It grew slowly, then quickly. Thousands of parents began using my guides. Schools shared my resources. I never told my family. The income helped cover Emily's education, but I kept it secret because I didn't want my mother's approval attached to it. The school invited parents to submit letters about their children. I wrote one about Emily. I wrote about late nights, missed vacations, and the moment she almost gave up. I wrote about how she kept going. I didn't write about Mom. I didn't insult anyone. I told the truth. I submitted it and forgot about it. Then I remembered the principal saying, "We may choose one letter for a special reading." Now near the exit I wondered whether it had been chosen. It had connected students with scholarships their parents never knew existed. I kept every message and result private because recognition had never been my goal for me. What they didn't know was that my dismissed work had quietly helped hundreds of families. And what they didn't know was that my voice was about to become impossible to ignore. The person who understood what was happening was Margaret Hayes. Margaret had been my English teacher in high school. Years later, she became my mentor and volunteered with the school scholarship committee. Margaret looked toward my mother. She thinks silence means weakness. That's what she's always thought. Margaret shook her head. Then let her keep thinking it. She knew about my anonymous platform and had been one of the first people to encourage my work. "Rebecca, there's something you should know," she said. I looked at her. "The principal chose your letter." My stomach tightened. "Seriously?" "He read it twice," Margaret said. "He told the committee it captured real perseverance." I swallowed. "I don't want Mom thinking I planned this." "You didn't. That won't matter to her." "Then don't explain yourself," Margaret said. The school had verified that my resources helped students find scholarships. I hadn't asked for credit. I never wanted attention. That's exactly why this matters. Across the room, Mom laughed with relatives. Then I heard her say, "Rebecca finally understands that she can't force herself into every family moment." Mom believed she had won and expected me to leave. Margaret touched my arm. "You can walk away." I looked at Emily across the room. She held her graduation program, still shaken. "No," I said. "I'm staying for my daughter." "Then stay." Mom glanced over and smiled, certain she had won. She had no idea what was coming. Minutes later, the principal returned to the microphone. The room quieted. "Before we present the next award," he said, "we'd like to recognize a student whose journey represents perseverance, and the parent who supported her." Emily looked at me. I felt my heartbeat change. The principal smiled. "Emily Lawson, please come forward." Then he looked directly at me. "Rebecca, we'd like you to join her." Mom's smile disappeared. Emily walked toward the stage and I followed her. Emily Lawson is graduating today after years of hard work. Her story is bigger than grades. Mom folded her arms. We received a letter from Emily's mother. It described sacrifice, uncertainty, and the determination required to keep a child moving forward when money is tight and support is limited. I remember the nights when Emily thought she wasn't smart enough. I remember telling her that struggle doesn't mean failure. Sometimes it simply means you're still climbing. He read about my extra shifts, skipped meals, missed vacations, and scholarship forms completed after midnight. Mom's face changed. "Rebecca never asked the school for recognition. She also never told us that the anonymous education platform helping our students was hers. A murmur moved through the room. Her resources have helped families understand scholarships, applications, and financial aid. Several students connected to our school benefited from that work. Mom stood. That's not true. We verified it. Mom shook her head. Rebecca is making herself sound important. I looked at her. I didn't tell him to say this. You planned this, she snapped. No. I came here for Emily. The principal finished the letter. Some people measure success by money or applause. Rebecca measured it by whether her daughter had another chance. Emily wiped her eyes. Then she stepped toward the microphone. I want to say something. The principal handed it to her. Emily looked at the crowd. My mom is the reason I'm here. Mom whispered, Emily. Emily shook her head. No, Grandma. You said she didn't belong. But she was the person who stayed. The room went silent. You're turning this into a show, Mom said. I didn't come here to expose anyone. I came here to celebrate my daughter. You were the one who decided I didn't belong. No one answered. Mom looked around, searching for someone to defend her. Nobody did. Emily walked to me and wrapped her arms around my waist. I held her tightly. For the first time that day, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt free. Everyone who had watched me being pushed aside was now watching the truth stand beside me. Mom had wanted me to leave quietly. That I stayed. And what she could never take from me was the truth about what I had done for my daughter. I didn't celebrate Mom's embarrassment. I didn't need to. After the ceremony, Emily and I sat outside the school. She leaned against my shoulder. Are you okay, Mom? I smiled. I am. She looked at her diploma. I wish Grandma hadn't said those things. Me too. Does this mean we're done with her? I took a breath. It means we're going to have boundaries. You can love someone and still decide what behavior you'll accept. Emily nodded. Over the next few weeks, Mom and relatives called. They wanted to explain themselves. Some apologized. Others made excuses. Emily started college knowing I had believed in her. I kept building my platform. Eventually, I became less afraid of recognition because it could help the message travel farther. My family had spent years making me feel small. Rejection taught me something. Sometimes losing a place at someone's table is how you finally learn to build your table. The day my mother told me I wasn't family anymore was the day I stopped measuring my worth by whether she wanted me to belong. If your family has ever rejected you in public, erased your sacrifices, or taken credit for what you built, Rebecca's experience may feel familiar. Share your story in the comments. Tell us what happened when people you loved made you feel like you didn't belong and how you chose to respond. Subscribe for stories about finding strength after betrayal. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Did this story hit home? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Tell me which moment affected you most, especially if you've ever been underestimated by people who should have supported you.